everybody, to your weekend bash here with Greg and Colin. The usual. Uh, tonight's topic's a little bit about Krystal Ball. Should we answer them a little bit? Comments? Um, let's see here.
So I'm just curious, why did you want to talk about Krystal Ball?
Mostly because it's. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious what she's trying to do. I mean, look at this dislike ratio here. There's people in this space that are like so indignant to like other I feel like this space like really like factions themselves into like different groups, and like it's a constant battle. It's like division by division by division, and so like it, I think this is mostly just like the purpose of like kind of like where she's coming from, like where she is now, and like how. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I found that the clip of her saying "grow up" was fairly condescending.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
patronizing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, that was like fairly obvious to everyone. I mean, I think it's like pretty clear.
So what do you want to start with? So you have up this clip. So this clip was when she went on Status Coup last weekend for their fundraiser, and that's when I think essentially she went viral for saying,
I guess you could say a checkup if we were patients. Where do you think we are with the progressive movement, and what do you think is needed the most? We're not blind, obviously. It's fractured. A lot of, the Bernie movement has splintered off a tad bit and been kind of deflated over the years. Do you think kind of the best thing is a primary challenger to Biden? Do you think the best thing is focusing on the local level, or, to hell with all of it and tossing ourselves into the union, organizing a worker strike, et cetera?
I mean, I don't think any of those things are mutually exclusive. You know how committed I am to the union movement, and I think that's one of the most hopeful things going on in America. But I also think that given the fact we just saw from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that even in a year where we had monumental, potentially transformational union wins, we also continued our long-term decline in terms of overall union density, so the percentage of the workforce that are members of unions. So to me, that just reinforces that there is no avoiding getting in, doing battle, and changing the landscape so that it's not so rigged against working class people. That certainly means local office, but I think it also really clearly means a challenge to Joe Biden in the 2024 primary. I mean, it's not
what? What is that? What is the DNC primary have anything to do with union and labor?
So the percentage of the workforce that are members of unions. So to me, that just reinforces that there is no avoiding getting in, doing battle, and changing the landscape so that it's not so rigged against working class people. That certainly means local office, but I think it also really clearly means a challenge to Joe Biden in the 2024 primary. I mean, it's not an accident that after Bernie, there was all this fracturing and division and the whole thing kind of falling apart. I think it matters to have national voices, national leadership. I think it matters to have a cause that people can look at across the country and ultimately get behind and unify behind. So I do think that that's an exciting prospect right now.
Obviously, right now, the main figure being rumored about is Marianne Williamson, who ran in 2020. Has stayed active since then with podcasts and going on various shows. She has an exploratory committee right now, and the Washington Post, of all places, did a decent write-up, actually. I was surprised. Here's the headline. Potential Biden challenger, Marianne Williamson, heads to New Hampshire. A recent poll has Biden not so great for the sitting president in New Hampshire. 66% of Democrats.
Yeah, what's up?
General rule of thumb, if you're getting positive, I wouldn't say this is positive, but the fact that if she is highlighted in mainstream media like this, they're not afraid of her, either in the sense of, oh, we know that we are going to crush her. So,
But she
when,
wasn't. I mean, what they're referencing is like how pollers, like especially like Democrat, they don't want Biden to run.
right,
They're assuming that like given any of the Democratic challengers, that Marianne is somehow the like she would just have to pass the primary, and then
right.
well,
But
given that Joe Biden runs again, which
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. But here's the thing,
granted,
though.
he's gonna die in like 3 years anyway.
But
But
here's the thing, though. Like, I feel like Krystal is trying to make the argument that, oh, because she's been featured somewhat um, promisingly, that she has a chance. When I argue that she either one or two things, just to kind of get people, and I wouldn't say necessarily get people excited, but I think it's more of the idea of, oh, we don't have anything to worry about with this woman. It's the idea of, yeah, we'll just give her like a few minutes of, we'll give her the press, but there's no way that she's going to overcome the establishment, especially given what she said on the Vanguard, where she was basically like, if she were in the debate, that she would hope that she would counterpunch, which to me doesn't give me any confidence that she's actually there to really challenge. It's just, and I've seen a lot of critiques online just being like, oh, we need her there to kind of elevate the issues. The problem is that what much more of talking do we need to do? Like, Medicare for all is popular. $15 minimum wage is popular. A lot of these progressive issues are popular. So we don't need to talk about it at this point. It's a matter of taking action on it. And as of right now, Marianne hasn't given any like tangible actions of what she would do if she were to be in a primary with, not just Joe Biden, but all the other um, candidates. Well, my guess is they'll all just kind of say that they're not going to run against Biden. So that's has been made clear. But she hasn't really said anything to kind of show me and others any promise that she's actually going to go in and challenge him in a way that would make people be like, oh, they're going to vote for me, especially given the DNC is basically going to screw her over at any chance they get. So I just feel Krystal here is kind of trying to make the case for one state that it's seemingly favorable, but New Hampshire is extremely conservative. And I would argue more an outlier if anything else, in terms of, the views of New Hampshire do not necessarily represent the views of the country. So I think Krystal is just making a not such a great argument for Marianne here.
I honestly, do you ever notice how these people, like, whenever these people like suggest any sort of strategy or issue, or like raise any sort of issue with things, it's always deflecting from like any direct challenge to the establishment. Like we're at a moment in time where we need to focus our energy within like direct, independent challenges
Mm-hmm.
to be. I mean, it's fairly obvious to everyone, including a lot of Republicans, like even like the wacko ones, like Matt Gaetz, are like they understand that there's like an elite faction of like both parties that are essentially working in the same degree. I mean, there's policies that are forwarded by these people that are like more conservative than the conservatives,
Yeah.
and that no one wants.
Right.
Um, honestly, and Marianne, like even as a politician on her own, is not great. Like she even there's a video after this where she says she wants to send weapons to Ukraine.
Right.
So I mean, like even in the case that she ran, and like if we like went back to like a 2016 situation, you just swapped Marianne and Bernie, I don't think like she would have gone in the same level. I really don't think so.
Well, I have to check the numbers, but Marianne in 2020 didn't rate fairly well, if at all. To
She
be honest,
didn't. She didn't.
she didn't. So it's kind of like what Bernie is more popular than she is. So what? And I get why Marianne is basically tuning herself as the next Bernie, because she's trying to ride off his coattails essentially to try to get people, especially those who are the Bernie stands, to feel confident in voting for her. But Marianne really wasn't that well known even in 2020. She said some nice things at key moments, sure, but she didn't really have much of an impact, regarding the primary. And then, even though she endorsed Bernie, she also kind of made a case for Biden as well in terms of, oh, we have to prevent the fascist that is Trump. So I don't think she really has ever been really I don't believe she's in this for genuine reasons. But
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely
but
not.
the reality is Krystal and her are friends. And
This is simply a situation. I think it's already been said before, where these are a group of friends who are hyping a friend who happens to be running as a Democratic Party candidate.
right. So this is just a way for Krystal to have access to her. And think about it. Like,
Well, I mean,
she
it's.
has
I
but
think it's more than that.
but
I think they might they. I don't know what the like level of like relationship that they have, but it could be closer than you and I could both imagine. And perhaps like this is just a situation where like she doesn't want to. She's gonna just support her friend, and then it you place that kind of like over like her principles.
but think about this though. This is breaking point. So Ryan Grimm is currently a part of this uh stratosphere. So he has access to the squad. So potentially he's able to get those exclusive interviews with squad members. And then in addition to that, just having the idea of having a presidential candidate, as part of this um, network is also more access for them. So given Ryan and Ryan's connections, and then Krystal, obviously her connections with Marianne, they're looking to boost up their numbers. They haven't broken 1 million yet. I think they've remained stagnant, I believe, I think the last I checked was around 850K subscribers on YouTube. So they haven't been doing very well. So, and I'll argue the majority of the audience at Breaking Points right now, it's like the PMC, like more centrist / more right leaning, well, especially with Sagar's influence. More, I would say more neutral. These are the types that would watch
Half their audience is
MSNBC.
like breeded by the Hudson Institute.
Right.
It's like Hudson Institute, like little mutated babies.
Right. But their audience is mostly, I would argue, the PMCs who would watch MSNBC, CNN, that would probably watch them as well, in light of the fact that, their show looks very professional, but has a more progressive quote unquote stance
Or they just
that
don't listen
would
to
be
what people
more
say.
appealing to people like to that, who feel like they want to move away from the establishment, but have the look of being an establishment at the same time. So Jax in the chat said, yeah, so they have 855K subs. So yeah, this is just, I think, a matter of access for them. In the connection of Marianne, and then Marianne, as I said last week, this is nothing more of like what Trump did to increase her profile. in terms of the celebrity of it. So it benefits both parties here. So, and given what RBN, how RBN's interview and even Status Quo interview went with Marianne, it makes sense that Krystal would be seemingly bothered by this because this would affect her bottom line. So, so of course she's going to say stuff like this. And I feel like, especially to, lefty commentators like RBN, probably not so much us because we're very small. So we're basically non-existent in their eyes, but definitely like people like RBN who've been actively challenging challenging these folks. And, she's visibly angered by them and others like them who are
There's
basically
definitely
challenging her money, essentially.
there's definitely a little bit of envy in there, and BPA Breaking Point said 850. They've been fairly stagnant over the
Yeah.
past couple of years. Notice how Jimmy hit 1 million when? How many months ago was that?
I think it was, I'll say about a year ago. Definitely last year. I would say, yeah.
So like a year ago, Jimmy hit 1 million, and it's still going up, and Kyle still hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think
And
people have.
It's obvious. Yeah.
It's yeah. So if you want to keep going, then we can.
Yeah. Now let's continue watching this. And I'm gonna...
That's don't want him to run again in New Hampshire. Mayor Pete, or Transportation Pete, is beating him. Even Bernie and Warren are somewhat close to Biden in that poll. I ask you, to me, I understand why progressives are deflated, but you have to actually look at Biden's strength and relative weakness. I mean, COVID really did in Trump in 2020. Arguably, if he would have given another check, which later on, Trump blames Mitch McConnell for not giving an additional COVID check. Arguably, Trump could have won re-election, even though he was disastrous in handling COVID. Obviously, we know what just happened in the midterms. It wasn't an endorsement of Biden. The overturning of Roe v. Wade played a huge part. What do you think in terms of it obviously historically would be an uphill climb, but if it were Marianne Williamson, her being competitive?
There is no doubt an insurgent campaign is always going to be difficult, and the odds are always going to be stacked against you. And the DNC is always going to do everything they can to rig it against you in the media. Although, right now it's sort of like the drama of Biden appearing weak and the sort of like internecine battle over the order of the primary states. Once they see you as a serious contender, they're gonna be out for blood. All of that is certainly true. However, do not buy
these people. Like, they're not stupid. They understand. Like they like when we're making these arguments. That the DNC is an especially effective evil that will basically turn on you and break you, and rig everything against you as soon as you become a challenge to them. And we saw that happen in real time. But there's like it feels like a computer bug to them. They're just like something's like not going.
The media narrative that Biden is some strong leader, that he's inevitable, and that he doesn't have weaknesses, not only with the general electorate at large, but specifically in the Democratic base. That poll that just came out of New Hampshire, the White House is shitting bricks about it. I mean, right now, like, it makes me barf that it's Pete that's beating Biden, but the fact that you have an incumbent president of the United States, someone who supposedly, we were told after the midterms, really shored up his position, he's really in a position of strength, et cetera, you're losing to Pete, the dude who just like screwed up the entire airline system and broke a rail strike. You're losing to that guy in a key early primary state. And you have 66% of the Democrats in that state saying, we don't even want you to run again. And we're supposed to be persuaded that this guy is unbeatable and you can't possibly defeat him, and don't even bother, don't even try. It's bullshit. It's complete nonsense.
Right. I also think they might have.
This is their argument. This is their entire argument, that like this is how Marianne is going to get their way in. That what the polls reflect about how they feel about Biden is that since Pete is beating him, then Marianne must be able to beat him.
Well, here's the thing: Pete is not going to go against Biden.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that's also true.
He's not going to go against Biden. So, so really, this is a non-starter here. When Biden announces that he's running for a second term, everyone is going to fall in line and endorse him. And that includes Bernie as well. So given like Pete, Kamala, Bernie, Warren, I think total as far as popular support percentage wise is about, I would say, around 70%, right? So given all of that, what chance does Marianne have on her own? And she didn't even rank at all in 2020 to stand a chance against Biden when everybody, and probably including the squad as well, will line behind Biden, even if they may dislike him. And here's what I believe is going to happen. It's not entirely clear now that Trump would win the primary now with DeSantis, like biting at his heels, and I guess Nikki Haley has put herself in as well this week, or thinking about it. There's going to be the issue of, we can't have Trump as president again, and we certainly cannot have DeSantis coming in, who I argue is worse than Trump in many ways. So, we have to be united and align with Biden, even though we may not, even though I can imagine that's what someone like AOC is going to say. So
I can tell you DeSantis is, just to go off on a second, DeSantis is especially evil because I think like there's a moment in time where like kind of like even like you'll see like the occasional like Fox guest like bash Trump or like be more like loyal to like and like a sort of like different faction of the Republican Party, and even like Matt Gaetz, like someone like Matt Gaetz is like are willing to defy Trump in some ways, and that's why like they're kind of they're more willing to move on to DeSantis at this moment in time, just because Trump's been censored so much, and he just simply hasn't been around, and honestly, like he's losing his relevancy as we go on. But
who, Trump?
like a little bit through time, but that's like
I
Trump.
don't
I
know.
think Trump is running in 2024.
I don't know about that. He's still very popular. I think again, DeSantis has been
No,
kind of
I'm just like noting like the slide between Trump voters to DeSantis voters. Like
Mhm.
they'll see Trump as like too noisy or like not like too noisy, but like too like rude, I guess, or like too like goofy. And
Right.
DeSantis like presents himself in a different, like more like established way, and he's like way more psychotic, but like still.
Right, but the fact that I don't know, like we'll have to kind of wait and see how this plays out. But I believe that if DeSantis decides to run, that he would make a formidable challenge with Trump, given that how he overwhelmingly won Florida um, in this midterm election. He was the only one out of all the Republican governors in the country that actually did his homework assignment, and actually succeeded. The rest did not, in part because of Trump. So I think Trump's credibility, and I think you can argue that even among Republicans, Trump wasn't doing so hot. And I think since he's been somewhat out of the limelight since Biden has been president, you can argue that I agree with you that some of his magic is kind of dissipating a little bit. But I also do believe that Trump still has control over his base, that the moment he starts doing his rallies, he'll kind of create, I think it's easy for him to rekindle the fire that people had for him. So I would say we'll wait and see, but I can imagine that DeSantis can step up if he decides to run, can be a challenge. I think probably of everyone, well, it's only just potentially him and Trump and maybe Haley right now. I think he stands the best chance of, giving Trump some concern, because I don't think Trump would have called him I forgot the name that he called him, but I wouldn't think that Trump would have considered him a threat if he wasn't starting to call him names or whatever else. So, but I don't know. But either way, Democrats will fall in line behind Biden. That all the long of it is, that there is no worry that Biden will be the Democratic nominee. Everyone will line up behind him, including the squad. Therefore, Marianne does not stand a chance in hell of even challenging Biden in this regard. So
I did. I just looked it up, and apparently, so in the second Democratic primary before she dropped out,
Mhm.
she got 13% of the vote.
Okay, but
That's not even. Yeah, that I think that's second round too.
right,
I
but
I'm not even sure how it exactly works. The whole.
see, here's the thing. I would argue for Marianne. If she came with something new, if she offered something besides Bernie reincarnate, then maybe she's would stand chance. Like the only thing that I wouldn't say it's new, but one of the thing that I think she's trying to highlight is reparations, which to me, as a Black person, is pandering. While I am fully supportive of reparations, I don't feel that Marianne is being necessarily genuine in that regard. I think she's using it as a way to kind of perk up Black people in terms of, and to make her stand out against Bernie, who wasn't for reparations. But that's really the only thing that of what marks her. Other than that, she's kind of she's kind of an empty slate besides that. So I don't know, but yeah, again, it's just a matter of her doing this to increase her celebrity profile, maybe for her to gain more money, maybe for her to have another book out or whatever else. But I don't think she fully intends to really be a challenge to Biden as I think she thinks she will. And honestly, I feel Krystal knows that too. But because of the access that she's able to get with Marianne, she is trying to justify the idea of Marianne being a contention when I don't think she will be.
I'm trying to say it's more personal than just access,
What do
or
you
at
mean?
least the potential is there that it's like more of like a personal thing.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
if your friend ran as a Democrat, like if you're like, and I'm trying to like just imagine like what is really like the perfect situation for these people? Like, what are they expecting? What are their expectations? What would be the perfect scenario for Marianne?
uh, to be
I
quite
feel
honest,
like
I
she'd
mean,
have to change her whole platform in order to like actually stand out.
well, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying before. Like she stands for nothing other than like I just want to be a carbon copy of Bernie plus reparations. That's it. So, and again, the argument is we don't need somebody to kind of talk about. Again, the arguments online were, oh, we need somebody to kind of talk about these progressive values. We don't need to talk about it anymore. You can argue Bernie did his job and made a lot of these progressive issues popular. Medicare for all, 15 minimum minimum wage, whatever. We're in a position where we need people who promise that they're going to fight for these things. And again, Marianne has not given any indication to me that she would do that. So if you're not willing to do that, or you don't give any tangibles as to how you're going to do that, then to me, you're just there for nothing. You're just there as a placeholder. Just in the need of the fact of the idea of having somebody be in contention with Biden. So yeah, it's pointless to me that she's there. Or if she wanted to do all of these things, she could run for. I mean, if she wanted to elevate the issues, it would be a lot easier for her to run third party, where will the DNC will attack her anyway? Yes. But at least she will have more control over the narrative in terms of what is said. If she runs in a Democrat, and she knows this because this is what happened to her the last time, her messaging is going to be suppressed by the media. So my question to her is, and Krystal knows this because she was in MSNBC. So you have to ask yourself, why is Krystal again doing this?
Again, self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, just to help her. Well, not help her friend, but to benefit from what Marianne is able to give her in terms of, access and notoriety and elevating their network or whatever else.
I'm curious how they do.
I mean, the Washington Post story points out, this is Mo Elite, he's with the DNC Rules Committee, on Biden trying to knock New Hampshire off as the first primary state and put South Carolina in its place. Quote, I think this ought to put even more pressure on the New Hampshire Democratic Party to figure out how to get this done. If I were them, I'd be very careful right now about giving out the impression that they are opening the doors to challenging the president. But the New Hampshire primary, the Democratic Party head in New Hampshire has said, yeah, you trying to bump us out is actually going to embolden a primary challenge, because people in New Hampshire take their place as the first primary state very seriously. Biden, I know some people don't like the word, he's trying to rig it, put South Carolina first to benefit him.
Yes. And, he loves to postulate, oh, this is all about having more diversity in the Democrat. Come on, dude. We see what you're doing here. You performed like shit in Iowa. You performed like trash in New Hampshire. You got like 5th place. And so you don't want them to have a say because you don't want to hear what they have to say. So you put a state that you are taking for granted effectively in South Carolina, you want to put them at the front of the line. I think this calling that this is about diversity, it's so transparent that it's really just a power play. So yeah, people in New Hampshire are extremely pissed, not just the party leadership. I think that's part of what's being reflected in this poll is they feel like they're being shoved aside. They feel like they're being ignored. And it's not going to be easy to pull off either, by the way, because there's actually state law in New Hampshire that it has to be like the first primary state in the country. And so they are planning to stick with that. And then becomes this big question of whether the DNC is going to censor candidates and try to, harm candidates who compete in that state. Like, are they going to deny them delegates? Are they going to censure them in some sort of way? So this is getting really ugly.
If that's not an outstanding yes to you, you're like you've been fooled. You're a fool. You're a fool at this point. No. How much of this do you think is Kyle?
No.
You don't think Kyle has any influence on this?
No. I would argue Krystal has more influence on this than Kyle does. Just given her position in the media, knowing how the media works inside and out, she's been in the belly of the beast. So, and I would argue that Krystal is better at messaging in this regard than Kyle is.
I mean, and I just want to show too. I mean, there was a point in time where Krystal had the balls to go on MSNBC and tell Hillary Clinton not to run.
Right. This is what got her fired from
MSNBC. She is connected. She's been on the news for years. She's ran as a Democrat at some point, and she's also been involved in a scam pack.
Right.
Featuring the likes of Reid Hoffman and the PayPal mafia. God bless those guys. She took I think she took out 66% out.
Something like that. Yeah, she took out.
I forgot how much she paid. She paid the majority of this money was paid to her salary.
Yes.
So
yeah.
If that's not just a justification to feel like at least like a little bit, this person maybe to be a little bit disingenuous.
Right.
I mean, that's up to you, but it's there. It's public information. So
really fast.
she's gonna
The
say it in like
comments from Ray Buckley, who's the longtime party chair in New Hampshire, real heavyweight in terms of like Democratic Party politics. Everybody knows this guy. That he's in there in the Washington Post suggesting like, hey, dude, hey, Mr. President, if you take us for granted and you don't campaign here, you could be opening the door for a humiliating loss to someone like an insurgent candidate, an outsider candidate, maybe potentially like Marianne Williamson.
Right. Let me ask you before we move on to the Republicans. Obviously, there's a growing portion of the left who this is a non-starter. They think we're circling the wagons, and it's insanity to run again within the Democratic Party. Would want Marianne or somebody else to skip it and run as a third-party candidate. My view is simply I don't have a problem with a third-party candidate, but I just look at what within the last 5 years has been the closest thing to victory. For everyone's despair and deflation, not so long ago, Bernie was like on the 5-yard line of winning the Democratic nomination. I think Bernie's campaign had some self-inflicted wounds.
Do you think that's true? Was he really on the 5-yard line? I think he was more like 70. I mean, 30. Sorry, I don't. I like
No. It appeared that he was, but at the same time, I think looking back,
I think actually
it was easy to see that Bernie wasn't going to win the nomination. I think in my naivete and hopefulness that Bernie can actually do it, especially given the way that how he kind of gathered people together, and there was seemingly a huge well of support for Bernie. But I think we learned that if the DNC doesn't want you, then they'll make it so they can do whatever they can to ensure that you will not get a nomination. So it appeared to us, yes, that he was on very close to the goal line, but the DNC were like, nah, there's no way in hell. So I think it was hopeful thinking. Yeah, I agree with Rick. We all hoped he was on the 5, but I think that was wishful thinking on our part but I think that leads to how desperate we were and still are in terms of actual,
and how desperate they are to convince people that it's actually more doable than it actually is.
Yeah.
In the Iowa caucus, Bernie got fucked. He got fucked over.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
and we have enough evidence to at this point to understand that the DNC rigged it against Bernie in Iowa.
Yeah.
But if we know that they're capable of this kind of stuff, what makes you think they're gonna not do it again? They're just gonna play nice,
right?
Are they just gonna be nice this time?
But Bernie Sanders, I mean, remember, Chris Matthews was railing and hysterical that the Nazis were invading Paris after.
I'm trying to really understand this argument of like where like they're coming from, where Marianne like finds herself at any point in time in the same position Bernie was in the 2016 elections. There's no way. If Bernie didn't exist, she wouldn't. I don't think that she would have, because she's much like many of the other like quote unquote like progressive Congress people who run on these same issues and then just turn their backs on them later.
Right. Yeah, this is why people say that Bernie was a once in a lifetime candidate, in the sense of he stood for things that were actually popular with people, that people responded to very well, that gave the DNC problems in terms of their corruption within the establishment and wanting to serve their corporate masters. So and I feel now we're basically getting Bernie copycats. Like,
well, that's what. Yeah, I mean, because Bernie really laid out the plan.
Yeah,
Run
Bernie
on
is
these issues.
it's easier now.
Endorse the Democrat, the establishment favored Democratic candidate, and then to completely sell out and then fuck over all of your supporters. And this happened time and time again. So it's not like this is like a new, like he really laid out like the blueprints for like how to make money as a progressive in Congress.
Right.
And I think it's even beyond like the non-effectiveness of like electoral politics. It's like how do we know that she's not going to get corrupted? Because she's already like a little like influenced.
Well, you can argue she's her views on foreign policy, as we've seen online, are trash. She hasn't really said anything regarding Ukraine, so she avoids talking about that topic whenever possible.
Well, because it's terrible. She wants more money to Ukraine. I mean, not more
Right.
money, but like they have like this very like soft on like they have like this like diet cola like pro war take where it's like they want to send money but not enough money so that like corruption could be involved, or like it justifies it's unjustifiable to like American inflation or whatever. But like it, it truly, like if what is your intention with sending weapons over there? There really is none besides stirring more shit. I mean, and I'm not. We're not even going to have to talk about Ukraine, but
Bernie won Nevada. He was assumed for like a couple days that he was about to win the Democratic nomination. So it's not so long ago within the Democratic Party, an actual progressive had a chance to win the nomination. We can't really say that about a third party candidate. That doesn't mean you don't try to grow a third party movement. But what do you say to people who are critical of Marianne or anyone that's going to run again within the Democratic Party?
I think you put it perfectly, Jordan. How did Bernie Sanders do? How close did he get to the White House? How close did the Green Party get to the White House? It's simple. I mean, we don't have to like.
At least the Green Party was on the ballot.
Yeah, I mean,
Bernie wasn't.
I don't know if people have noticed. There's a lot of crises going on in the world. There's a far right movement basically trying to end democracy in our country.
And notice how that's the first thing she says.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like,
how close did the Green Party get to the White House? It's simple. I mean, we don't have to like. I don't know if people have noticed. There's a lot of crises going on in the world.
There's a ton of crises. There's multiple national calamities occurring right now at this moment. And what's the first thing she mentions?
The far right movement basically trying to end democracy in our country.
The far right movement.
Yeah.
Trying to end democracy.
Say the line.
Country.
Say the line.
Yeah, she sounds like Hillary Clinton now.
No, like Rick is
she
right.
She sounds like Hillary Clinton.
It's basically Emma, like mainstream media.
That's basically. You might as well this might as well be MSNBC.
Yeah,
might as well just be MSNBC.
Working people are suffering every single day. We've got a climate crisis that's unfolding. I mean, continued insane instances of police brutality that just make you want to weep and scream and your stomach churn. And they want to like wait around for some theoretical revolution. I'm sorry, grow up, get serious. This is an actual path to having an impact on the issues that you claim to care about.
Can I pause
now,
right here? She makes it sound as if people are just sitting, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a revolution to happen. When the reality is, people are trying to, on the ground, people are actually trying to do the things to make revolution occur. So the idea that she kind of she basically kind of dismissed the work that I do, the work that others do, in saying, oh, you guys are not really serious about change. You guys are just talking about the idea of revolution theoretically. Where I argue that she is the one who's talking about revolution in the theoretical. And I think for me, this is kind of my issue.
Doesn't this make your blood boil a little bit?
Well, yeah, because these are the circles that I'm a part of, which I can't stand. The idea, like they talk about these issues as a theoretical issue and not necessarily things that people go through day to day. And so it's easy for them to separate themselves from that because they're not impacted. So the idea that she's talking in terms of like activists who are twiddling their thumbs, like if this were someone like Kashama Sawant, I'm sure she would not say the same shit, because Kashama, to her credit, and you can argue what she's doing is not whatever, but I think Kashama recognizes what is needed in order to try and elevate the needs of the labor class, and is actually, for what I understand, trying to create her own platform that she's able to say what she needs to say without mainstream media interference. Krystal is essentially undermining all of that in saying you guys need to shut up and
do what I want.
Basically shut up and follow my friend. Whereas it should be, and like, again, going back to Kashana Sawant, the idea that she said she never wanted to be a city councilwoman, but just due to her, like, it being a part of Socialist Alternative, she was kind of elevated to that position. It wasn't like someone that was just had the idea of being like, hey, I want you to be president, or I want you to be in this position, this political position. Like, Kashama rose up from the essence of the organizing that was happening. So the fact that, like, Krystal is saying, oh, people are just fantasizing about the idea of revolution. No, like even our, Black revolution leaders have talked about this. It's the idea of like, you have to start on the local level and kind of elevate it from the ground up. And the thing is, if they were really serious, given Krystal's money and Krystal's influence, and this is something that really pisses me off about her, is that when is she, other than like the chosen few that you may have on breaking points every once in a while, is she going? I don't remember any time on breaking points where she's had an actual activist who is not aligned with the Democratic Party in any way to be on her show and kind of elevate some of the issues that we kind of go through from an on the ground perspective.
Oh no, never.
So
they'll never have anyone like Nick on. Like, they'll never have someone like that on.
No, and so
I just want like this was today. Grow up. Grow up. The audacity of her, like, to tell like, fucking like.
Yeah, it's the idea of the PMC class just talking in terms of, oh, we're aware of the problem. We will may come and help you. We might give money to you or through charity to kind of help appease the situation. But we don't want to talk about it in terms of how to change the system from the root and develop something new out of that. Like, you never hear Krystal kind of speak in those terms. And but it makes sense because she benefits from the very system that we're trying to destroy. So she doesn't want to get rid of that because that's, that's her livelihood. Essentially, she grew up rich, or I wouldn't say, well, yeah, but privileged more so. So, and I kind of wish, considering that Jordan did that Substack article over Christmas, basically saying, like, like he made a comment of activists need to take a break. It's okay for activists to take a break. Like, I reported on Dr. Arikana, who was the former ambassador to the African Union back over Christmas, and she made a comment, where she was like, in thinking about the needs of Africa, I can't sleep. Like, I wake up thinking about the needs of my people. Like, that's an activist in terms of, even if you're away from the problem, you're always thinking about it. And Jordan was basically like, it's okay to take a break. And again, that's not a message for me, who's kind of in the thick of it, that you're always thinking about that in terms of the needs are for your community. And it's not easy to turn that off. So yeah, I think
It's the
Krystal's
lack
just
of exposure. It's the lack of urgency. It's
lack of
everything
exposure,
about the
or
level of
I wouldn't
connection that
even
they
say
have.
lack of exposure. I'll argue lack of, she doesn't care. Like, it's the idea of like, this doesn't, it doesn't concern me that much because I'm not actively involved in it. And funny enough, like, I remember when, I think she had to be on Breaking Points at that point, where she talked about having to go to the healthcare marketplace to get healthcare for her kids. And I was kind of like, why are you doing, like, this was before that, I don't think she really openly said she was getting a divorce. But at that time, I was like, why are you doing that? Aren't you married? And you're married to, like, I guess her ex-husband was a venture capitalist or something like that. So, like, why are you doing that? And so now in hindsight, the fact that she's kind of talking in this way, and yet she had to do the very thing that many of us have to do in order to get healthcare, to me, it's just really low. Because she can afford it, whereas even though she doesn't like it, and most of us cannot afford it. So yeah, there is no urgency, but I think just due to her position, it's more or less, I don't really give a damn.
Just to clarify this, there was a snowstorm in Texas. That's why there was no power.
Okay.
Yeah, and a bunch of people like were like, you know, this just goes to show like how we're like on the thin like treading line of like pure disaster, and no, like these people just don't realize it because they like surround themselves in like among like elite circles, like, you know, like authors like Marianne Williamson. Apparently, Jordan is coming out with a book.
They want to like wait around for some theoretical revolution. I'm sorry, grow up.
Like so can so a revolution is child like honestly tell me is a revolution really that childish?
I don't think so.
Like, so
Well,
what
I mean,
is
like,
that like a completely unserious like topic that like is that something that you really is that really like a wild thing to like just think of like and I'm not even like thinking about like full scale revolution. I'm thinking like something in terms of like an Occupy Wall Street or like a Robin Hood kind of thing, where it's kind of like direct control. Oliver, come here, come here.
well, my dad says, or my dad did say to me, most recent visit that I had with him was, revolution starts in the family. So the idea of, if you can't make those necessary changes within the family, then it's almost impossible to make those changes outside of that, like whether it's in your city or your town. Like, essentially what he was saying to me is, revolution starts with you. So, and again, like, there are people willing right now to start that. It's just a matter of having the right circumstance where people are able to do it and feel that they are supported in doing it. That's why I think, especially given what's happening within the labor movement, has been somewhat significant, because people are willing to make moves as far as their livelihood and in terms of getting the power that they feel that they deserve. One, because they're desperate. Two, they have the understanding that they have no choice, even toward of what it means to them personally. And I don't think Krystal has ever been in that position where, she's had to do that. So for her, it is a theoretical standpoint because she's never had to think of it in terms of that way, like that. But most of us, or many of us, have or are willing to. What happened to the puppy? Sorry, I got a little distracted. But yeah,
No, I'm just thinking like how can you look at people like I'm like imagining like forwarding like ideas like from like sorry, Oliver's being clingy today. Come here. Come here. Like I would argue the Black Panthers were as a concept like forwarding ideas that were revolutionary,
yeah.
right?
I mean, there were and
And to call that like
right,
unserious,
yeah.
like
So
that's
again,
yeah.
we're in the middle of Black History Month, so the idea of like she's basically, to me, kind of disregarding the people who tried, like Malcolm X, MLK, Black Panthers, Kwame Ture, Angela Davis, all these figures, who made attempts and in many ways kind of elevated, the conversation at minimum to talk about the dangers of capitalism and what is needed in my community, Black liberation. So for me, the idea of revolution is basically ingrained in my being because, especially being cut off from, my ancestral home, like this is something within the Black community I think really should be talked about more. But I think people who have been aware of it have been talking about, for at least in this context, for close to 500 years. So I'm not sure about for others, but at least for me, within the Black community, something in terms of revolution is not it's not a theoretical thing, and we've seen it happen, throughout history. Like look at what happened in Haiti. Also reported on that on INN News. I think over Thanksgiving, I believe. But I think this is kind of ignorance in part of Krystal because she's yet to kind of see it in term from her worldview, what that looks like. Whereas, not necessarily me, but definitely, thinking in terms of like my parents and like even my grandparents and back, we've seen change, but the key is having the organized power to and having the fortitude to fight against that, so yeah, I think this is just an example of Krystal either being I wouldn't say naive, but I think just a complete lack of awareness of what is happening on the ground and what people are doing to try to elevate their circumstances to make the changes that she herself claims that she wants. So, but again, I think who does she talk to that would have this discussion, in terms of what's really happening? Like, not many people, if at all. So, so it's, yeah, I think it's just more or less disregard / just doesn't care about it. Vote for her friend.
Yeah, basically. I wanted to watch this, but Oliver's being pretty needy right now.
Does he have to go for a walk?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
The thing, I mean, I took him out already like twice, but it's like fucking 15 degrees outside.
Right.
I don't know what it's like in DC right now, but like New
It,
York is like fucking crazy cold this
yeah,
weekend.
it's like 20 here, like 25 degrees here. But I went out earlier, so yeah, it's not. It's
Yeah.
the fact that I'm saying it was a little warmer than yesterday is kind of funny, but yeah, it's like 20 degrees. So
Yeah. Instead, we could just talk about how Kyle's looking.
Maybe she's considering Ryan. Early stage, the media.
He thinks that
Yeah.
this is a lock for him. Poorly enough.
I'll get rid of it, but
I wanted
He
to.
also
He's got an earring now.
no, he's been had that earring.
What happened?
He's been had it
For how long?
long enough. That's not new though.
This guy went from like looking from like a political science nerd to like a Backstreet Boy in a month. He just left on his like Halloween costume and look and then look at the way that Krystal's dressed.
Yeah.
Doesn't that like look like it's like that's like a Princess Peach dress.
Yeah.
It's like like how much do you think that costs?
I don't know, and I really don't care. Again, this is just more classes.
performed abysmally in New Hampshire. What do you get? 50 is a big point. Democrat.
Biden's.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I'm done with these folks. It's time. Good night, y'all.
Right. Good night.
Thanks all for joining. Like and sub to INN. Links down below. Thank you very much.
We gotta do a better. Hold on. We gotta do a better job of closing out.
How?
You just kind of abruptly ended it. You just kind of abruptly ended it last week. So we gotta give.
Why? What's wrong with the abrupt ending? I mean, I said an hour. A quick hour.
Yeah, we said. Yeah, true.
You're just busting in an hour. That's it.
Yeah, but like, don't like just leave and just leave people hanging.
I know. I'm not trying to. I mean, I'm not entirely used to the closing thing. But like,
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be. Like, but I mean, you acknowledge the people here. So like.
Yeah, but, no. I mean, no, thank you, all y'all for.
Yeah. So yeah, just yeah. So as Greg said, thank you all for. This is just mostly something just to hang out. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Appreciate your support. Check our links out. Check indienews.network for links for us, all of us in the network, and follow us on the Twitters and everything like that. And we're still trying to figure out if this should be a regular thing, but let us know.
I just felt like doing this, honestly.
Yeah, this is kind of like Prab's.
I'm just having fun. That's it.
Yeah, so that's fine, and I'm happy to oblige him in the fun. But yeah, like let us know if this is something.
These are the fun segments. That's it.
Yeah. So Indy's like gotta work on this pause thing. Like, not sure what you mean, but I'll talk to you later about it. But yeah, but all the same, I'm sure y'all got better things to do on a Saturday, so we'll let you go. But yeah,
I mean, I maybe not Saturdays because like I stayed in today because it was really fucking cold out. But
yeah, I mean, I mean, people are gonna stay in, so I think it's fine. But yeah, so it is like someone needs to say what? No, that's not our tagline. That's Extra Booyah. Shout out to him, Uncle Warren. We miss you. No, we're not gonna do that.
I'll love to Warren. I fucking love Warren, man.
Yeah. So yes,
everyone always on the spot. He's hilarious.
Yeah, everyone subscribe to Extra Booyah. He's doing his secret show. I think he's probably still doing his secret show. I know he did one last night, just randomly, but like
they're working on a new segment right now.
Right. So yeah, go support Extra Booyah. But yeah, fam. Great.
Hope y'all had a good Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon. Next time when we decide to do this. So have a good night, y'all.